Dear listeners, this is Secrets in the Smoke. Settle in, breathe slow, and let the darkness do the talking. Have you ever wondered who watches the watchers? Or why certain places stay open even when no one seems to go there? No cars, no customers, just lights that never go out. What if I told you some theaters don't show films, they show you? I used to think the graveyard shift was just a figure of speech, something people said when they were working late. But the shift I took was quite literal. It felt like a job buried alive. Let me tell you about Silvergate Cinemas. Or as I call it now, the place I almost didn't leave. It's one of those old, half-dead buildings tucked behind a shuttered diner in an abandoned strip mall, like it had been forgotten by time but kept running on spite and dust. You know the type. The ones with flickering marquee signs where half the letters don't light up. The kind of place where every seat cushion has a stain and every shadow looks like it's holding its breath. It's not even listed on most GPS apps. You just kind of find it. Or maybe it finds you. The first time I walked past it, I didn't even realize it was open. The ticket booth was empty. The front doors, streaked with fingerprints, were propped open with a brick. Faded posters of movies that had come and gone years ago lined the glass windows like ghosts with stuck-on smiles. I didn't plan to end up there. Life had been eating me alive, bills, rejections, debt I could no longer outrun. Have you ever been broke enough that your standards dissolve overnight? That's where I was. So when I saw the help wanted, night shift sign taped to the theater door with yellowing scotch tape, I figured it couldn't get worse. Turns out, it could. Dennis was the manager. Mid-40s maybe, though he looked older, like something had been wearing him down piece by piece. He had this 1,000-yard stare and a twitch in his left eye that never quite stopped. He didn't ask for a resume. Didn't care about work experience. Just slid a crumpled paper across the counter and said, "If you want the job, sign here." That should have been the first red flag. But desperate people miss details. As I scribbled my name, he finally spoke up. "It's just the night shift. Nothing fancy. Clean the theaters, restock snacks, keep an eye out till 6 in the morning." He paused. "You'll be fine, as long as you follow the rules." Those words settled in my stomach like cold stones. I looked up. Rules? Dennis reached into a drawer beneath the counter and pulled out a laminated sheet. It looked worn, like it had been passed down through generations of unfortunate hires. There were 10 rules printed in thick, blocky letters. I scanned them quickly, and my stomach turned. 1. Once you start your shift at 11:45 p.m., do not leave the building until 6 a.m. No exceptions. 2. If Theater 3's door is slightly open when you arrive, do not go inside. Just close it and keep walking. 3. At exactly 1 a.m., enter Theater 5. Watch whatever is playing, even if it's static. Do not look away until it ends. 4. If you hear someone whisper your name from the projection booth, do not respond. They're not talking to you. 5. At 2:33 a.m., sweep the lobby. If you see footprints that weren't there before, follow them, but only to the bathroom. Leave the lights on. Walk away. 6. Never eat the popcorn after midnight. It isn't ours. 7. If Theater 1 plays a movie with no title, turn off the projector immediately. Do not look at the audience. 8. Someone will knock at the emergency exit of Theater 4 at 4:14 a.m. Do not answer. Do not even look at the door. 9. If you see a small child in the hallway, ask them what movie they're looking for. If the answer isn't the last showing, run to the supply closet and lock the door until 4:44 a.m. 10. When your shift ends at 6 a.m., leave. Don't say goodbye. Not even to Dennis. I blinked. Is this some kind of hazing thing? Dennis didn't even flinch. Just follow them. His tone was hollow. Mechanical. Like he'd said it 100 times before and didn't have any emotion left to attach to it. Still, I laughed, awkwardly, more to fill the silence than anything. But something about the way he looked at me as I walked out that night chilled me more than the rules themselves. Next night, the theater was dead quiet when I arrived at 11:45 p.m. No music in the lobby. Just the soft whir of something electrical humming behind the walls. I clocked in using a tiny dusty terminal and stuffed the rules sheet into my pocket. Better safe than sorry, right? At first, it felt like I was babysitting a corpse. The building barely made a sound, but every inch of it felt wrong. The kind of quiet that makes your ears strain. Like something was deliberately holding its breath just to hear you move. I cleaned the snack counter, wiped soda stains from cup holders, swept popcorn off the stairs in theater 2. Everything was empty. By 12:30 a.m., I was starting to relax. Still weirded out, but relaxed. Maybe the rules were just tradition. Maybe they'd had a stalker or a crazy ex-employee. I'd heard of places inventing superstitions to keep staff alert. But then the clock hit 1 a.m. and it was time for Theater 5. I stood outside Theater 5, watching the time flick over on my phone, 1:00 a.m. on the dot. The door creaked open without a touch. Just a slow, deliberate swing that welcomed me like an invitation written in shadow. I stepped inside. The air was heavy. Not warm, not cold, just dense. Like I had walked underwater. The room was lit only by the screen at the front, glowing with static. A dull, flickering white noise hissed softly through the speakers. It wasn't just sound, it crawled into your ears, made your skull buzz like you were standing under power lines. I sat in the center row, seat G6. My body sank into the old cushion like it hadn't been sat on in years. The vinyl stuck to my arms. I felt watched. The screen pulsed. Not flickered, pulsed. A slow, rhythmic dim pattern, like a heartbeat, or breathing. For the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then I felt something. Not saw. Felt. Like pressure behind my eyes. A growing need to look away. Every instinct was pulling at my neck muscles, begging me to glance to the side. To check if I was alone. But the rule was clear. Do not look away from the screen until it ends. So I didn't. Even when my eyes watered. Even when my vision shimmered like heat rising off asphalt. Then, without warning, the sound cut out. Total silence. I mean total. Like someone had vacuumed all the noise out of the room. The static shifted. At first, I thought it was just distortion, until I realized I was looking at a live feed. Theater 5. From the projection booth's angle. It showed me, seated in real time. Only I wasn't alone. There was someone, standing directly behind my seat. Not moving. Not speaking. Just there. A dark, blurry outline. Slightly hunched. Unrecognizable. Like a person caught in the middle of flickering candlelight. My heart clawed at my ribs. My hands trembled in my lap. I needed to look. But I didn't. I forced myself to stare at the screen. My vision tunneled. Then the figure lifted a hand. Slowly. Toward my neck. I snapped. I spun around in my seat, lungs seizing mid-breath. Nothing. Empty aisle. Dead silence. When I turned back, the screen had gone black. My legs moved on their own. I stumbled out of Theater 5 like I was fleeing a fire, heart in my throat, rule sheet crumpled tight in my hand like a lifeline. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't a prank. The rules were real. The hallway to Theater 3 felt colder now. Narrower. Like the walls had shifted slightly while I was inside Theater 5. Then I saw it. The door. Slightly open. Just enough to catch a glimpse of flickering light on the floor. Just enough to tempt you to peek inside. I froze. My breath fogged in front of me. The rule pounded in my skull: if Theater 3's door is slightly open when you arrive, do not go inside. Just close it and keep walking. My hand inched forward. I pressed the door shut, slowly, firmly. As it clicked into place, I heard it. Screaming. Real. Horrific. Human. It came from behind the door. A chorus of desperate voices, pleading, sobbing, gasping between choking fits of pain. It sounded like someone was being skinned alive while the projector rolled. I swallowed hard. My hands trembled so badly, I shoved them in my pockets to stop them from twitching. Don't open it. Don't look. Don't break the rule. I walked away, counting my steps, refusing to look back. The layout of Silvergate was odd. It was built like a maze that had been designed by someone who hated symmetry. There were turns that led to dead ends. Doors that looked real but didn't open. Exit signs that blinked inconsistently. As I made my way past Theater 1, I heard it. My name. Hey, Jack. Soft. Drawn out. Hey, Jack, come here. It came from the projection booth. I stopped mid-step. It was Dennis's voice. That cracked, sandpaper voice I'd heard just a day ago. But it wasn't him. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. Something was wearing his voice like a mask. The way it pronounced my name, it didn't sound like speech. It sounded like mimicry. Like a thing practicing being human. I didn't respond. I didn't blink. I kept walking. As I turned the corner, it whispered again, closer this time. You shouldn't be alone up here. I shoved my AirPods in and blasted static noise I found on YouTube. Petty revenge against the theater's static? Maybe. But it helped drown it out. I had just finished wiping down the candy shelf when I heard the sudden clunk from the snack counter. I turned and saw it. The popcorn machine was running. I hadn't touched it. It was churning kernels in slow, deliberate motion. The smell wafted across the lobby, warm, buttery, nostalgic. Like comfort weaponized. By the time I got to it, the bin was full. Perfectly full. Each puffed piece, golden. Steaming. I looked around. The building was still silent. But the machine kept whirring, like it was waiting for me. Like it was offering. The rule throbbed in my memory, never eat the popcorn after midnight. It isn't ours. That last line always haunted me. It isn't ours. Who did it belong to, then? I reached for the off switch and flicked it. The machine stopped, mid-spin. But that smell lingered. It lingered too long. And that's where I made my first real mistake. I forgot the sweep. I was in the storage room, restocking straws and plastic lids, trying to shake off the fear from Theater 5. I wasn't watching the time. When I finally glanced at my phone, 2:36 a.m. Panic gripped my throat. I dropped the lids, burst out of the room. The lobby was still. Still, but not clean. I saw them immediately. Footprints. Slick, wet, leading from the front doors toward the women's bathroom. Each print looked fresh, glistening under the fluorescent lights. I followed them. One cautious step at a time. My shoes squeaked against the tile. As I reached the bathroom entrance, I froze. The air changed. It became colder, sharper. The rule rang in my ears, follow the prints to the bathroom. Then stop. Leave the lights on. Walk away. But curiosity is a poison we drink willingly. I stepped inside. The lights flickered. The scent hit me instantly, rust, rot, something sweet decaying. Like rotting meat soaked in perfume. I turned toward the mirror. And there it was. A reflection that didn't belong to me. Something pale. Leaning just over my shoulder. Eyes wide. Mouth stretched into an impossible smile. Holding a shovel with dried blood across the edge. It lifted the shovel. I screamed loud, but there was no echo. No one to hear. The lights flared back to life. and the thing was gone. I stumbled back, turned the bathroom lights on, and backed out like I was facing a predator. The air behind me felt thick, as if something still stood where I'd been seconds ago. I didn't stop shaking for 10 minutes. By 3 a.m., my mind was no longer fully my own. Sleep deprivation, fear, adrenaline, some twisted cocktail sloshing through my veins. I was jumpy, eyes bloodshot, checking every shadow like it was a threat. I paced the hallways with the rule sheet crumpled tightly in my hand, reading and rereading it like scripture. I checked the lobby again. The popcorn machine stayed off. The wet footprints had evaporated into the floor, like they were never there. Still, the smell of rust lingered faintly in the air. Like the place had bled and dried. Time moved differently after 3 a.m. Slower. Heavier. Every second felt stretched. Every minute, an hour. My watch ticked too loudly. My phone screen looked dimmer. The lights flickered slightly more often. The walls seemed closer than before. I stopped trusting reflections. They moved just a hair too late. Even my own footsteps started to sound like an echo that didn't quite match my rhythm. The rules said 4:14 a.m. was next. I knew what was coming. And I dreaded it more than anything else. I stood outside theater 10 minutes early. Just in case. I didn't sit. I didn't blink too long. I just stood. Silent. The hallway was colder here. I swear I could see my breath. The emergency exit door at the back of Theater 4 looked ordinary enough. Slightly dented. Metal. Painted red. But I knew it wasn't just a door. At exactly 4:14 a.m., the sound came. Knock. Slow. Heavy. Like someone using the side of their fist. Knock. Another one. Not frantic. Not rushed. Deliberate. Knock. 3. My skin prickled. My fingers dug into my palms. Knock. 4. Then silence. No wind. No creaking. Not even the hum of the overhead lights. Just nothing. I stood frozen, breathing through my nose, fists clenched, muscles trembling under my jacket. The silence stretched. Then, a voice, just barely audible, murmured through the door. "We saw you in Theater 5. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even meant to be heard. Just a statement. An observation. A promise. I shut my eyes. Covered my ears. And hummed, low and steady, just to drown it out. The sound of my own voice, no matter how shaky, was the only proof I had that I was still me. After what felt like forever, I opened my eyes. The door was still. No one was there. But I didn't move for another 5 minutes. I was heading back to the lobby, praying the rest of the shift would slide by quietly. Then I saw her. Just standing there. Right next to the snack counter. A little girl. Maybe 7, maybe 8. Wearing a faded pink dress with cartoon characters on it, like something you'd buy at a thrift store in 2002. Her hair was shoulder length, unbrushed. Her skin was impossibly pale. Almost paper white. She didn't move. Just stared at me. Like I was the first thing she'd seen in years. My blood froze. The rule pounded in my head like a drum. If you see a small child in the hallway, ask them, "What movie are you looking for?" If the answer isn't the last showing, run. I didn't want to ask. But I had to ask. My voice came out like it had been dragged over gravel. "What movie are you looking for?" She smiled. And that smile. Her teeth were wrong. They weren't jagged. They weren't sharp. They were too many. Like rows of sheeklets stacked one behind the other. Her mouth went farther back than it should. "The happy family," she whispered. My legs knew before my brain did. I turned and sprinted for the supply closet. The hallway stretched as I ran, like I was moving underwater. Every footstep felt like a year. I slammed the closet door and locked it behind me just as I heard her start running. Then scratching. Low. Gentle. Then harder. Like nails across metal. Then her voice, right outside the door. "Let me in. I'll show you the real ending." It wasn't angry. It wasn't pleading. It was playful. Like a child offering you a secret. I pressed myself against the wall, eyes locked on my phone. 4:32 a.m. I had 12 minutes. She circled the outside of the door. I could hear her tiny feet. She giggled. That sound will stay with me forever. A light, bubbling laugh that didn't belong in a place like this. I counted my breaths. Counted the seconds. I whispered the rules to myself over and over. Not just to remember them, but to stay sane. When the clock struck 4:44 a.m., everything stopped. The scratching. The footsteps. Even the air pressure in the room shifted. Like whatever had been pretending to be a child had vanished into the floorboards. I opened the door slowly. The hallway was empty. Except, the rules sheet I had stuffed in my pocket was now taped to the wall outside. Clean. Fresh. As if it had been waiting there for me. The final hour passed like a slow-motion panic attack. I didn't sit. I didn't blink for longer than a second. I just walked the loop of the building over and over again, checking each hallway, counting the signs, making sure the world hadn't shifted again. The silence returned. But it was no longer calm. It felt threatening. Like a quiet house where you know someone's inside. And still, I didn't see Dennis. Not once after that first night. No one came to check in. No one texted me. No one called. It was just me and those rules. And whatever else obeyed them. The terminal at the front desk blinked when I scanned out. A small green light flashed. Shift complete. The doors unlocked with a metallic click I felt in my teeth. The sun hadn't risen yet. Just a dull blue bleeding across the sky. The kind of light that doesn't offer warmth, just the absence of darkness. I didn't say goodbye. Not to Dennis. Not to the theater. Not even to myself. I walked out with my back straight and my eyes on the horizon. I didn't look in the windows. I didn't check the parking lot. And when I got home, I didn't sleep. I just sat on the floor of my apartment, unblinking, holding the rules sheet like it was a crucifix. I never went back. Didn't return the uniform. Didn't explain. Didn't ask for my paycheck. I figured if they wanted me back, they knew where I lived. And part of me still thinks they do. Because some nights, especially the ones where I stay up too late, I hear it. A knock. Not on my door. On my window. 4 slow knocks. Then silence. I've never looked. I won't. Because there's one last rule I forgot to tell you. Don't bring the theater home. If you're still watching. You already heard the knocking, didn't you? Leave the lights on. Hey. Thanks for listening. If that story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who thinks they're brave enough. We'll see you in the next nightmare.